Throg's breath attack, if you can call it that, is one aspect of him that often gets overlooked, but can generate some really nice value against armored infantry. Today I'm up against Gojira once again, Norsca versus Dwarfs. You can already see one danger to the Throg in the distance there, some gyrocopters with brimstone guns, of course anti-large armor-piercing flaming projectiles will be good against Throg as he is weak to fire, but we've also got Fight or Die for extra leadership and melee attack. Wintertooth Crown here. Throg is leading a flanking force of some Berserkers. We've got 3 units of Berserkers here. 2 character chariots. We've got a Death Sorcerer and a Fire Sorcerer. Both on the armor-piercing chariots of Norsca. Very good. We've also got a huge front line of Marauders, 5 Great Weapons, and 3 Sword and Board Marauders, 2 Feral Manticores as well to kind of chase Gyros around. I'm also going to be Spirit Leeching and Fireballing said Gyros. Because Gojira doesn't have any artillery, he's gone with a very much defensive formation here. No Slayers except for Gotrek. He's also got a Master Engineer, Belagar, Iron Hammer leading the way. Some Iron Breakers here through the center. Longbeards, I believe, and Dwarf Warriors. Yep, so looking to just set up a defensive formation here and try and generate a lot of value from the Brimstone Guns. Obviously, I'm going to try my best to keep the Manticores chasing the Brimstone Guns. Just mostly, you know, even if Gojira is able to stay in front, because technically the gyrocopters are faster than the Manticores, although they will tire from shooting pretty quickly, and then the Manticores might be able to catch them. On the charge animations as well, the Manticores might be able to catch them, but just kind of patiently trying to get a full surround here. If there were any Slayers, I figured the Berserkers would be able to deal with them, so I'm pretty confident in my infantry composition here, but definitely going to be a rough situation initially for the Marauders here, as they get absolutely blasted out by Iron Breakers. Going to do a lot of damage as they kind of wash into the lines of these Longbeards, but I definitely have enough numbers of infantry here to make an impact, and also, you know, Manticores getting enraged is going to be a problem. That does kind of free up my micro to a degree to go into other places, but the first Vomit, you might almost missed it there, just side shots into those Iron Breakers, and is able to kill, what, 6 models, do a ton of HP damage, so Throg already generating some nice value there. Marauders running for the hills, but we've got the Chariots now incoming as well. Throg's going to kind of attack the flank of this Longbeard so that they turn. And the Chariots then technically count as charging from the side, so they don't get subjected to that charge defense. Same thing, these Iron Breakers turn around to throw their charges into those Marauders, which does, granted, completely blast that unit, but still. Smoke Bomb, or Flash Bomb rather, from the Engineer there gets popped. Gotrek's going to move in. No Dragonback Slayers to give additional weakness to fire. And Throg even still should be able to maneuver out of there. I mean, he is applying Frostbite to all these Dwarven units as well, so the speed debuffs kind of end up being a little bit of a wash. Speaking of speed, I mean, Manticore still just chasing around the gyrocopters. Again, the biggest thing is just to not allow them to get set and fire free, you know, all 3 of them focusing Throg. You can already see he's taking significant damage just from one of them, and the Engineer also poking at him from a distance. But Throg, you might think the anti-large is a bit odd in this matchup, but given how popular of a pick Thorek Ironbrow is on his chair, on his magical toilet seat of doom, the anti-large is actually applicable because he counts as a large entity on the chair. We've also got a couple of Hounds in here going to be moving into just mostly chase riding units. They've been kind of sitting in reserve in the back here. Berserkers also came out of the forest to kind of engage as a second force here that allows some of the Marauder Great Weapons to now rally and get back in the fight. Throg is definitely taking some punishment, though, from those Brimstone Guns, so gonna have to be careful of that. Fire Ring of Thori does some okay damage to Berserkers, nothing too crazy, but certainly is something. I'm gonna move in somehow to just keep the Engineer from firing. Another breath attack there, straight into the blob of those Dwarf Warriors, and Iron Breakers, again, generating some really nice value. Throg is up to not even 1,000 damage value. Okay, so maybe not the greatest, but it's something. And certainly, given that he's, you know, pretty low, it's risky to come in and use him in combat. Like, I really am going to have to cycle charge him in and out pretty aggressively. Breath Attack allows me to still get some value. Go ahead and pop that Wintertooth Crown just to make everything unbreakable. It does help with some of these units kind of staying in the fight here. We've managed to rout most of the infantry here. There's still a few Longbeards, Wolf Warriors fighting over on the side here. But likewise, the Gyrocopters have been pretty well limited. I mean, they've taken a lot of HP damage. Still 3 models online for all 3 of them, at least for the time being. But Manticore is just continuing to apply pressure up in the air. Throg finds the engineer surrounded by doggos and just kicks him in the head repeatedly, so that's going to be a bad situation. Man, the engineer is literally, like, not even as tall as his kneecaps. That is just hilarious. Oh, Throg, the big boy, as my camera just continuously bugs out. I really don't even know why that's a feature, to be honest, but anyway. Fireball does actually take down a model there, so one gyro's actually down at this point. Throg might also go down, but the last vomit comes in, impacts the last unit of Iron Breakers. Trying to finish off this supporting infantry so I can get a nice surround and grind down the remaining characters. Throg's feeling fine, mostly. I mean, in terms of leadership, not really. He's under 1,000 HP, but still regenerating. Has plenty of healing cap space left. If I can keep these Brimstone guns from getting any more shots on him, I should be pretty safe. I mean, at this point, army's pretty close to army losses. The Dwarfs, that is. Gotrek obviously going to be unbreakable, but Manticore, in a rage, comes down to fight Belegar as he is surrounded by Marauders and the Doggos. Here comes Throg as well. Gyros are still looming, though. Throg trying to dodge those shots, eats a couple of Brimstones to the back, down to below 500 HP. He breaks. Thankfully, the Shaman Sorcerers are still around to provide some leadership, but this is the end of days for Throg, unfortunately. I mean, he's, what, like only 100 HP? Less than 100 HP at this point? If the Gyros have, like, one more volley? There he goes. All 3 vomits used. Still some pretty good value, but down he does go. Still wasn't enough to save the Dwarfs, as Belegar gets pathed out by a chariot. And we're going to just surround Gotrek with Berserkers to finish him off here. The anti-infantry, high weapon damage will be very good. Obviously, Gotrek doesn't have any armor. He does still potentially get his healing proc, but no, in fact, does not go off. And there it is. So well played to Gojira. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. It's a fun matchup, you know. I would say that Gojira's lack of Slayers, I think, did play against him to a degree. I didn't have that many large units, but just in general, Slayers are pretty good in this matchup. The Berserkers would have traded good into them, ended up trading just okay into the rest of this infantry. I guess 2 of them pay for themselves, which is pretty nice. Throg, at the end of the day, I don't think he even pays for himself with the vomits, but, I mean, it's better than if he didn't have the vomits, certainly. Does help a little bit. The 2 Shaman Sorcerers also, I mean, it's okay. Anti-infantry damage on the chariots. Honestly, a lot of the value does come in on the infantry. These great weapons initially getting blasted, but then being able to come back in kind of that second wave, you know, return from route, get a rear charge. They ended up getting some really nice value. Of course, the Manticores, very clutch as well, helping to chase the Gyros around and not allow them to do too much damage, although they certainly did mostly pay for themselves. Iron Breakers also, one of them with the blasting charges, 119 kills, 1,323 damage value, 15,000 damage dealt. I mean, Iron Breakers are certainly a legitimate contender for one of the best infantry units in the game overall. In terms of quality. Gotrek also gets some pretty good value. Belegar also not too expensive. Probably pays for himself. I'd have to look at what kit specifically he had, but, you know, it's something that you wouldn't consider. The breath attacks are a lot more common on the dragon-type units to see, because the flying allows you to kind of dictate and pull back in a way and not really risk too much, whereas, you know, the ground units with breath attacks, I guess that would mostly be like Throg, the Troll Hags, right? If we go in here in Norsca, obviously Throg's got the Copious Vomit, right? I believe... Is it literally the same effect for the Troll Hags, or it might be slightly different here? Swamp Breath, yeah. So there's slightly different effects, but then I guess, what is it? Other ground units with a breath attack, I guess you've got the Hydra, right? And I may be missing some others, but this is the main ones I'm thinking of here. Against a slower faction like the Dwarfs, you definitely still can get good value out of these ground-based breath attacks. It just, you know, does require a little bit of micro, cycling in and out, and especially all 3 of these units also have regeneration as well. That does kind of play into the cycling in and out, just to be able to keep up that regeneration. All of them also relatively poor leadership to a degree. I mean, Trolls, famously poor leadership. Throg's probably got the best leadership of any individual troll unit in the game, but also Wintertooth Crown makes him unbreakable. He's got some leadership buffs as well, but just as a general rule, you know, trolls have low leadership, right? So it is something you definitely have to manage. managing that regeneration, plus the breath attacks, just benefits you to try and cycle in and out as much as you can. Mither certainly helps with that. The Frostbite certainly helps with that. In the case of the Hydra, you don't have poison or, really anything else in terms of speed debuffs. You have to really screen with additional units. The Hydra's also only 46 speed, whereas these two troll characters are in the 50s range, so another thing to consider. It's a little bit harder to do with the Hydra, but anyway. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I don't know, kind of a strange discussion, but makes Papa Nurgle proud, I guess. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. See you next time.